Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Buki. If you're new here, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you're an old subscriber, good to have you back. So this is going to be episode 2, or should I say part 2 of my grad school series. If you missed the first one, please make sure you watch it so you have an idea of what we're actually talking about. It was an introductory video and everything why I decided to go to grad school. So today's video is going to focus on getting my visa, how I made my decision out of the two admission offers I got, who sponsored me, did I get a scholarship. So if you want to know all the tea, make sure you keep watching the video. So in my last video, I think it was the end of my last video, I talked about, how I decided to use my youth service year. If you're not a Nigerian, youth service in Nigeria is for 1 year, and that's after you're done with your undergrad. You just serve your nation for a year and then you're put somewhere, like something related to what you actually study. So for me, I was working at the Lagos State Secretariat Staff Clinic. So after that, I just took some time off, and then later got a job working as a medical officer at one of the primary healthcare centers in Lagos. So that period of, working during NYSC and also working as a medical officer, I was also trying to put myself together for grad school. So I finished NYSC, I think sometime in 2019, took some time off, and then started working in 2020. And that was when, guys, the pandemic started, right? So I had gotten 2 admission offers, one from University of Illinois at Chicago, and then the other from University of New Haven, right? So I needed to decide, to make up my mind on which one I wanted to pick, which state I wanted to go to. I wasn't so sure. So of course I had to pray about it because I needed to make up my mind, because that was going to help with my whole visa process. Because when you go to the embassy, they're going to ask you why this school, which school are you going to, where are you going to, and the likes, So I prayed about it, and so I had someone in Chicago and I also had someone in New Haven, right? So if I had gone to Chicago, I would have been fine. If I had gone to Connecticut, I would have been fine as well. So I wouldn't say I was confused. I wasn't confused, but for some reason, I think after I prayed and everything, I was just so sure about Connecticut. I'm not, and ideally I would have picked UIC because UIC is a much more popular university, really big. There might be more funding opportunities, and then it's a public university, while University of New Haven is a private university. But for some reason, I was just so sure that I had to be University of New Haven for me. So I made up my mind, prayed. I was so sure. I was like, you know what, Buki, you're going to Connecticut. I did not even realize that my mom's friend, she was my mom's best lady. When my mom was getting married, she also resides in Connecticut. I did not even know because we had not been in touch. My mom had been in touch with her. Then one of my sisters as well had been in touch with her, but I did not know. So that wasn't what just made me, decide on coming to Connecticut. I also just, after I prayed and I was so sure, I just also knew that, okay, Connecticut wasn't far from New York, and also on the side, I'm an influencer, the opportunities, not like you would not make it in Chicago, right? But there was just something about coming to Connecticut. I remember that my dad even asked me, why Connecticut? I just said, I have read about it, and I was just so sure, when you're sure that it was Connecticut, right? So the next step, guys, was to now start hustling, visa appointments, embassy runs, and the likes. I was working towards grad school to resume in 2020, the fall of 2020, right? And fall was going to start in August. So that was my plan, jackpot, leave Nigeria in 2020, just leave Nigeria. But as God would have it, the pandemic started. I'm sure God was just smiling. And then the American embassy had to shut down in Nigeria, guys. That period was not even funny at all, because there is no way I would have, or I would be able to come to America if I did not go for my visa interview, right? Anyway, long story short, I paid at some point. You couldn't even get dates. The embassy wasn't even working. But I was just like, whether the devil likes it or not, me, I will what? I will go to grad school, right? So the embassy was still not open, and we're getting to, I think, August, or maybe like April, like May-ish or June. The embassy was still not open, and I was like, God, what's going to happen? Like, am I not going to go to grad school this year? Da, 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 and everything. And then my mom was also asking me, and then the I told you I also like was doing UK on the side, and I had gotten admission offers from 3 different universities. So they were like all waiting for me to also make a decision. Are you going to America? Are you? So everything, it was just good, guys. It was just a whole lot happening at once. Anyway, so I just said to myself, I was like, okay, the embassy is not open now, right? One thing I know for sure is once the embassy opens up, I will get a date, I would go for my visa interview, and I would get my visa approved. I didn't know how God was going to do it. And of course, I had like, good travel history, the United Kingdom. I had been coming to the US as well. But there were like so many other stories that people that had even been traveling a lot to America, they will still get rejected at the embassy, right? So I just told God one day, I said, UK was waiting for me. And then there's America, the one I really want. I just want a sign to let me know that I was going to get my visa, I was going to get my visa approved. And that was like going to be the factor that was going to just, decide everything. So basically, I just wanted God to give me a sign, because if God gives me a sign, that will give me hope, and I'll be sure, that, even if it decided to open the embassy in 2021, I was still going to get my visa. I just needed to be more patient, guys. I am not the most religious. I am not kidding you guys. I slept today, and I saw myself at the embassy in my sleep. I don't think I've actually shared this with anybody before. And I think this was also one of the reasons that just made me, get gingered, or just really realize, it spoke to my spirit. Say, Buki, you need to share your grad school journey. Number one, starting from, the rejections and how God just everything. So I saw myself at the embassy in my sleep, and they were asking me questions. I even gave a wrong answer. It was something about funding, like was sponsoring and everything, and I didn't answer. But despite everything, I just was told, okay, come back to get your passport, right? And that was just the sign that I needed to help me make my final decision, right? Because if I was, going to be rejected at the embassy, at the US embassy, that means I was going to forfeit. I was going to miss out on my UK offers as well. And I probably would have to wait for the next year and everything. So it was just like, God, your reputation is at stake. God, you just need to give me a sign to just let me and help me, make my decisions. And then I just remember that, I woke up the next morning. I was so happy. I was so excited. And I called my mom. I was like, Mommy, don't worry. Like, the UK offers can go. I am going to America. It doesn't matter when the embassy opens up. I will get my visa. Even after God had given me a sign, the embassy was still not open. So I was just like, I was already getting frustrated. It was like, oh, there's no way I will be able to meet up for this fall admission. So I reached out to my school and told them if I could, defer my admission to maybe like the spring semester that was going to be in 2021, like January. And my school agreed. And when they agreed as well, they said, oh, you had gotten 20% scholarship, which was probably like $3,000 off my total, tuition fee. It wasn't significant, to be honest, compared to how much we really spent, but was still some. I was like, okay, cool. From having back-to-back rejections to having an offer and then a 20% scholarship, right? God is good, and I'm also thankful to God for that. So all of a sudden, the American embassy opened, guys. People were just like, fast. I could not get a date. And I'm like, hey, God, now the embassy is open. Your daughter cannot get a date. What will I do? And I'd already paid, the visa fee. I think it was about $160. I can't remember the Naira equivalent then. And then the pandemic, was still on and all that. I was working as a I was working at the hospital, right? You know, of course, as a doctor and everything. Even though there was lockdown, but I was still working. I mean, people had to save lives, and I was one of those people. Anyway, so I don't know why. When I was like really trying and I couldn't get a date, the Holy Spirit just said, "Message the U.S. Embassy." Like, and when I'm like, "Huh?" Guys, I'm not even sure how I found their email. I sent them an email and I said, "Oh, sorry, I have paid. You know, I had to defer my admission. Could you please give me a possible date? Da, 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 da. Please, this really means a lot." I can't even remember exactly what I said, guys. I am not kidding. I think 2 days after, I got a response from the US Embassy giving me a date to come for my interview. I was like, so shocked, and I was just like, God, it could only be God, because explain like how like I'm so thankful, and that just really showed me that, Buki, you're going to America. God, you get backing. God is backing you up. Like, it doesn't matter how. And guys, you know, after I got the response from the embassy, you know, I told one of my friends, some of my friends, like, people, they're like, "How'd you get?" When they tried to message the embassy did not respond to them. And I just really felt like a witch, right? But that was how I was able to secure my date to go for my visa interview. Guys, the day I was supposed to go for my interview, guess what? That was when this NSARS thing happened in Nigeria, like they were killing people and everything, and then the US Embassy closed again, and they were like, all appointments on that day will be moved. I was like, guys, I was like, God, which kind of wahala be this? So like, being Nigerian, yeah, is a whole lot of drama. And I'm like, guys, the breakthrough is almost here. Like, why is it the day? And it was the same day I was supposed to go to the embassy for my interview. They just like, you know, whatever. And then they now gave me another date when everything was kind of like calm and all of that. So that was how I got my appointment and, you know, visa interview. My appointment was sometime in November. I can't know, maybe November 6th. I can't remember the exact date, but I think so. It was November 6th. And I was supposed to resume school in January. So before then, guys, I don't like to take chances. Yes, God was, you know, backing you, but you have to also do your own part. So basically, I was like, you know, researching what kind of questions, you know, they were going to ask me, possible questions. Guys, I had studied. Sometimes I wake up midnight, know my destination, why public health, blah, 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 and everything. Guys, you would think I was actually preparing for an exam, because I just was like, yes, God is backing me up. God has already given me the vision. God has already said you will get the visa and everything, but I just didn't want to sit down there and relax and be like, oh yes, God has said it too, so don't put in the work. No. So I prepped everything, and then my friend as well in New Haven, she also like sent me some possible interview questions. The day of the interview, I got to the embassy. The queue was long, but before we even started queuing up, right, my tummy started rumbling, guys. God, like, I was so nervous. I had to start speaking in tongues. I had to go to one corner, you know, I was praying, you know, kabashing, like, God, no, no, no. Like, I don't want this to happen, because, you know, imagine interviewing and you're nervous, like, anything could happen. And I just wanted to be as calm as possible. My mom called me to, like, you know, pray for me and everything. At some point, I was calm, right? Guys, when I got into the embassy, I was just trying to like observe, because we're like bouncing people. In the American embassy doesn't joke. We're like bouncing people. Sorry, we can't. I was like, God, please. Then I saw that there was a guy like that was actually, you know, giving people their visas and everything. I was like, oh, I want to go there. And then immediately he just said, oh, I'm sorry, you have to go over there. Guys, the over there was someone that had been denying people. I was like, Jesus. Like, that was what I said. I was like, Jesus. But I don't even know how I walked there. I don't even know how I got there. Guys, this man asked me a total of 12 questions. And I'm going to be reading them out to you, because I wrote them. Immediately I got out of, my brain is very sharp. Like, I remember things. Yeah, I remember things I want to remember. Yeah, so immediately I got out of the embassy, I just wrote everything down, because I know like other people might ask me or whatever it is and all of that. So I got there, you know, I said hi. I was just like, Holy Spirit, please, I can't speak. Just do your thing and just speak. So you know how they do now, they just be typing. They won't look at you and everything. I just passed my passport, my documents and everything. And the questions he asked me, let me read. I have my phone here. So the first question he asked me said, where are you going? So I told him, you know, the name of the address of the school and everything. Who is sponsoring you? I said, my father is sponsoring. What your father, what does he do? I told him. What does your mother do? I told him. He said, have you been to the US before? I was like, oh yeah, I have. He was like, what states have you been? I said, listen out Philadelphia. I said, listen out Atlanta. I said, listen out everything. And I said, where in the US did I really like? And I told him. He was like, did you travel alone? I said, yes. He was like, oh, do you have a family? I was like, oh, I traveled alone. And then he now asked me, he said, what did you study in your undergrad? I told him medicine. And he said, when do you work? I said, oh yes, I'm currently working. How many siblings do you have? Guys, I'm like, how many siblings? At this point in time, I didn't even know what I was saying. I was just talking. I told my many siblings. I was like, oh, what does my immediate younger sibling do? And I told him, my sister studies so and so. It was like, are you the first child? I was like, oh yes, I'm the first child. I was like, oh, I see you. You're about, you know, saving lives. Your sister is more about like, you know, making money. You know, it's just like, why is this man asking me all these questions? I didn't really know how my interview was going to go, right? And then the final question was, how will getting this visa or getting this degree as a public health professional make you a better doctor? Guys, imagine if I had not read so much about public health, I had not prepped myself, I didn't even know what I was going to school for. I probably would have flopped, because that was just going to be like the question that was going to determine if my visa was going to be approved or not. And as God was going to have it, Yoruba would say, Ota Oyomi means like the enemy did not catch me, guys. I had something to say. I honestly cannot even remember my answer right now, but I'm sure if I think so well about it, I'll remember. And it was like, I'm happy to tell you that your visa has been approved. Man, I'm just like, if I could kneel down and say, God, thank you, I would have, right? I'm sorry I'm being dramatic right now, but trust me, it was like a whole lot. And then he said, I would have said, I would have told you some, I think what he said was, I would have told you, to get, you know, with that really thick winter jackets or whatever, that, you know, Connecticut is really cold, but for someone who has studied in Ukraine, you have nothing to worry about, guys. And that was how I had my visa approved. And this was somebody that had been bouncing other people. And I was like, you know, so happy. I got out of the embassy. And when I stepped out, one of my friends I had met, you know, during the whole, like, you know, school prep and, you know, admission, whatever, was like, what were you gisting about with this man? At some point, I think I even talked about fashion or influencing, that I was probably asking something I do on the side. The person was like, when he heard fashion, he was like, what was Bookie saying to this man? And then when I met other people, somebody also bounced. She was like, you were answering excellently. Like, she was just like, have you, guys? So that was how I got my visa approved. And yeah, so we've come to the end of this video. The next one, I'm going to talk about, you know, how I headed to grad school, you know, settling into school and, you know, school life and everything. So make sure you turn on post notifications so you do not miss it. And if you have questions for me, please drop them in the comment section. And if you really like this video, please make sure you give me a thumbs up, and see you all in my next video. Make sure you subscribe as well. Bye.